In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this Moroccan lattice crossbody bag. This pattern also comes in a tote bag version, so there's something for everyone and you can choose your variation. You can find the crossbody tote bag for free on my blog, or both of the patterns are included in the ad-free PDF. You can grab that on my website and I'll leave links in the description box below. For this pattern, I'm using the Hirschner's Cottage Cotton, which is a number 4 medium weight yarn, which is classed as aran or worsted weight yarn. This is 60% cotton and 40% acrylic. Gorgeous yarn, and I have been using all of these colours for the Moroccan lattice collection. For this pattern, I am using the 4.5mm crochet hook. You will need a pair of scissors and a darning needle when it comes to sewing in your ends, and a few stitch markers might also come in handy. So I'll leave all the details for everything that you need in the description box, so make sure that you check that out. Go ahead, grab everything that you need and let's get started. So for the crossbody bag, my main colour is going to be this one here, which is stone blue, and my contrast colour is going to be this one, which is chiffon. So for the tote bag, I actually did it the other way around. The chiffon was the main colour and the blossom was the contrast colour. So you can enjoy playing around with your contrast colour and your main colour, and both of them give really stunning results. So we're going to start off with your main colour. For me, that's this one, and go ahead and grab your hook. So you want to go ahead and create your slip knot in whichever method you prefer, and go ahead and insert your crochet hook. So we're now going to make our chain. For the crossbody bag, we're going to chain 9, and for the tote bag, it's going to be a bit wider, so you want to chain 13 if you're making that version. So it's yarn over and pull through, that's 1, yarn over, pull through, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I have my chain of 9, and now I'm going to work my way back across this chain. I'm going to be working into the back bumps of the chain. So if you just turn it around, and you can see these bumps here, also known as the spine of the chain. We want to find that second chain from the hook, so it's not the one that's on the hook. We have 1 and 2, turn the work, and we find that back bump. So we're going to work a double crochet, which is a US single crochet, into that back bump. So we'll go into the chain, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through both loops. So that's our first double crochet, which is US single crochet. And then we're going to go into the back bump of the next chain, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2. That's 2 stitches. The missed chain does not count as a stitch, so we only have 2 stitches here so far. And we're going to work 1 double crochet, which is US single crochet, in each stitch all the way across. So for the crossbody bag, you're going to end up with 8 stitches, and for the tote bag, you're going to end up with 12 stitches. So I'll just work my way across this chain until I get to the end. And there we have our row 1. So the base of the bag is going to be super easy. We're just going to make an oblong. So I'm going to chain 1, turn the work, and then we're going to work a double crochet, US single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So this is our very first stitch here. We ignore this chain 1 and we work a double crochet, US single crochet in each stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Remember, for the tote bag, you'll have 12 stitches. So we're just going to do this until we have 40 rows for the crossbody bag. Chain 1, turn, and then continue to work 1 stitch in each stitch across. making sure that you are counting your stitches in every row just so you don't drop any or gain any additional stitches. So for the crossbody bag, we're going to work 40 rows, and for the tote bag, we're going to work 60 rows. So go ahead, pause the video, work the amount of rows that you need, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've made your base, we're actually going to work some stitches all the way around here. So we're going to be working a double crochet, US single crochet into each row end, into the short end, down the row ends, and into the short end again. What I would do here is grab your stitch marker and pop that into your very last stitch that you've just made, because we're going to chain one, which does not count as a stitch, and then we're going to find that first row end. So we'll go into that row end and work a double crochet, US single crochet, into the next row end and into the next. So if you're doing the cross body bag, you're going to have 40 stitches down this row, down these row ends. If you're doing the tote bag, you're going to have 60 stitches. So pause the video, work your way until you have done these row ends, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've just worked my way down those row ends. I have 40 stitches, not including that chain one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the work, and we know that we have 8 stitches down this short row end. Now we are not going to add any stitches to the corners. So you just want to make sure that you are starting in that 8th stitch. So this is the first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So find that first stitch and you're going to work straight into that stitch, and then work 1 double crochet, US single crochet into each stitch. So you're either going to have 8 for the crossbody or 12 for the tote bag. Now remember, you're working into the foundation chain here, so these stitches can feel a little bit more snug, but this is why we worked into the back bump of the foundation chain, just so that we can see those stitches a little bit easier. So I have one more stitch just here. And then I'm going to rotate my work again and find that very first row end, which is just here. And you're going to work 1 double crochet, US single crochet into each stitch all the way down. Now if you want to, you can actually add a stitch marker to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th stitch across, just to make sure you know that this stitch here is your very first stitch of the edge, just so that you can count, because if you don't get your stitch count right here, the rest of the pattern will not work correctly. So go ahead, pause the video, work down each row end as you did the other side until you get to this point, and then meet me back once you're ready. So once you've worked your way across and done your 40 stitches, you're going to, or your 60 stitches, you're going to rotate the work, and then we're now going to do our last stitches across here. So this is my very first stitch. You can see I placed that there because it can get a bit confusing of where your very last one is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So we're going to go into that 8th stitch, or your 12th stitch if you're doing the tote bag. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, take this out, and 8. Now going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Now remember, this one just here It looks smaller than the other. That is your chain 1. We're not going into there. We're going into this very first stitch with, whoops, with a slip stitch. I'm again going to mark my last stitch, which is this one here. And what we're going to do now is move on to the setup for the main body. So I'm going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and then we want to find the post of this very first stitch, which is just here. We're going to do a back post double crochet, which is a back post single crochet. We're going to take our hook and go around the back of the stitch, bring it out to the front, and then go around the post of the stitch and bring it to the back. Yarn over, pull through. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through, both loops on your hook. That is our very first stitch. Again, you can mark that with a stitch marker if you wish. I'll just pop that in there, and we now know where the last stitch is going to be, and then this is the first stitch. And we're going to do this all the way around, so we're going to go around the back to the front and to the back of the stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2. Around the back to the front and round the back. Yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2. And this is creating a curve in our work. So we're going to do this in each stitch all the way around. So you won't really need to worry about the corners here because we didn't add any extra stitches. We're literally just working one of these into each stitch all the way around. And we're going to have, again, either 96 stitches for the crossbody or 144 stitches for the tote bag. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way all the way around until you get to your last stitch, until you've done your last stitch, and then meet me back once you're ready. I've now worked my way round. I'm going to take my stitch marker out this very first stitch and join with a slip stitch to that stitch. Now this becomes the base, and then where these stitches have tilted to, this is now going to create the sides of the bag. So we're going to do another round. We're going to chain 1 and then work a double crochet, US single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So I'm going to pop a stitch marker into my last stitch, because this is the stitch we just made. This is the chain 1, and then this is the slip stitch. So this is the last stitch. And then work 1 stitch in each stitch all the way around. So go ahead, pause the video, work 1 stitch, 1 double crochet, which is US single crochet, in each stitch all the way around, and then meet me back once you're ready. Please do make sure that you are counting your stitch count again. So I've just worked my way all the way around. I'm going to join with a slip stitch into that first stitch, like so, and then I am going to mark that last stitch. So now we've created the bag base and we've done the setup for the main body of the bag. We're now going to move on to doing the main body. So for round 4, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to do a double crochet, US single crochet into that very first stitch. We're going to chain 2 and then we're going to skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to work our pattern repeat. So that's going to be a double crochet, US single crochet, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, double crochet, US single, chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. Double, chain 2, skip 2, double, chain 2, skip 2. So go ahead, pause the video, work that all the way around. You'll end up with chaining 2 and skipping 2, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've now worked my way around. I've done my chain 2 and my skip 2 finishes in this stitch where I've marked. So we're going to find our first stitch. Remember, this is our slip stitch, this is our chain 1, so we're going to work into the top of that very first stitch, which is your double crochet, US single crochet from the beginning of the round. So now what we're going to do is you're going to either pull up a long loop, or you can pop a stitch marker into that loop. I'm going to remove this stitch marker for now, but you could easily pop this in here. I tend to just pull up a long loop, but I'll show you what to do if you do just want to pop a stitch marker in there. So stitch marker keeps getting stuck. Like so. But what we want to do, and this is throughout the whole of the work now, is when we drop this colour, we want to make sure that it's dropped towards the front. If you drop it towards the back or let this go towards the back and work over it, then we're going to be in trouble for the next round or the round after. So we're going to just leave this to fall to the front, and then we're going to locate that next chain 2 space, which is just here, and then we're going to prepare our contrast colour. So I'm going to create my slip knot, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch into that next chain 2 space after the join. Chain 3, and that counts as a treble crochet, which is a US double crochet. I'm now going to work 2 more trebles into this chain 2 space, so 2 US double crochets, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. That's yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So we have 3 trebles. This chain 3 counts as a treble, so 3 trebles, so US doubles in that chain 2 space. And this is what we're going to do all the way around, so super easy round. We're going to find that next chain 2 space, skip this double crochet, we're not going to chain anything, we're just going to work 3 trebles, US doubles into that next chain 2 space. And move across to the next one. 3 in there, 1, 2, and 3. So go ahead, do that all the way around until you get to this last chain 2 space here, work your stitches in there, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so now we've worked our way around, we've done our last 3 stitches into this chain 2 space, and now we want to join with a slip stitch into the top of that chain 3. And we're going to either pop a stitch marker in here or pull up a loop, and then the contrast colour is going to stay towards the back of your work. So now we're going to be working in 2 layers. So we want to think about doing V-stitches and granny stitches. So with the main colour we're going to be doing V-stitches, with the contrast colour we're going to be doing granny stitches, and they're going to lay on top of each other, so it's like an interlocking crochet technique. So I'm going to give you an example of what I've just done wrong here. So I'm just going to pull this out just here, and before I join I want to make sure that this main colour is at the front. So I'm going to pull this through here and make sure it's at the front. So I didn't check that just then, which meant that I couldn't move on to the next round. So now I'm going to join with a slip stitch. And now move on to the next round. So I'm going to pull up a loop here and let that drop to the back. And then I'm going to remove my stitch marker out here and insert my hook into that working loop. So to start this round, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is going to count as a treble crochet, US double crochet and a chain 1. We're now going to place a treble crochet into this, the base of this stitch. So yarn over into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 and yarn over, pull through 2. So we have a V-stitch just here. We're then going to find the next double crochet, so we're going to skip these 3 trebles, yarn over into that double crochet. We're not working over the trebles, we're going into and almost pushing them back for now. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, chain 1 and then work a treble US double into that same stitch. We have a V-stitch. Push those granny stitches back, or just ignore them for now. Find that next double crochet and work a treble, chain 1 and treble, which is US double, chain 1, double. So treble, chain 1 and treble. So it's a V-stitch. That's what I'm going to refer to that from now on. A V-stitch, just remember that is treble, chain 1, treble, US double, chain 1, double. So again, we're going to find that next double crochet, US single crochet and work a V-stitch. And that's what you're going to do all the way around. So this is what your work should be looking like. You have 2 layers, one that's sitting forwards and one that's sitting backwards. So just treat them like 2 layers for now. Work your way round and then meet me back once you're ready. So now you've worked your way around, we're going to join with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the bottom of this chain 4. So remember we did chain 4, one of the chains was the chain for the V-stitch. So we'll go into the 3rd chain and slip stitch. Pull up a loop and make sure that is dropped forwards. And then we're going to pick up the contrast colour. So this now is where we're going to start joining these together. And what we want to do is we want to line up the centre of the V-stitch with the gap between the grannies. So first of all, for this very first part, we're going to go into that V-stitch and then also into the gap behind, and then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop and yarn over, pull through. So that's a standing double crochet, US single crochet, but we're actually sandwiching those 2 layers together, and then we're going to do a stacked double crochet. So into that first leg of the stitch, yarn over, pull through and yarn over, pull through 2. That counts as a treble crochet, US double crochet. And then we're going to work 2 more trebles, US double crochets into that stitch. Then we're going to find the next V-stitch just here, and we're going to yarn over, go into that V-stitch and then into the gap between the 2 granny clusters behind and work 3 trebles into there, US double crochets, 2 and 3. And this is as simple as it is all the way around. So we'll find that next V-stitch, yarn over, insert into there and also the space between the treble clusters and work 3 trebles, US double crochets. So go ahead, pause the video, work that all the way around. This last one's going to look a little bit odd. So work all the way around to this last V-stitch, but this is going to look a bit strange until we pick it up again. So just bear that in mind and remember to keep all of your stitches, all of this main colour at the front. Pause the video, work your way around and meet me back once you're ready. So now I've worked my way around. I'm going to make sure that these are all towards the front. Now I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that first standing treble, or standing double, pull up a loop and let that drop to the back. So now for the next round. This one can look a little bit funny because it's just been left loose. But what will happen when we put our hook back in, just give that a little bit of a pull and then it brings that stitch back together again. So now we're going to do a V-stitch. So we're going to do our beginning V-stitch. We're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that counts as a UK treble, US double and a chain 1. And then we're going to work another treble crochet, US double crochet into or around this stitch. We're going to go under the stitch like so. Now we're going to do a V-stitch and we're going to be working around here. So this is where the V-stitches join. We're not working into the top of any stitch, we're working around that stitch. So yarn over, insert around, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, chain 1 and then work another stitch like so. So this is a V-stitch round. You're going to do that in each of those spaces all the way round. We aren't anchoring down to the granny row, so this will be like a flap again, like 2 thicknesses. This is what we're going to repeat all the way around. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way round until you've done your last V-stitch just here and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've just worked my way around. I'm going to join with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of that chain 4 and then pull up a loop and drop that down to the front. So from here you're going to repeat rounds 7 and 8 and you're going to do that for round 9 to 40 for the crossbody and 9 to 50 for the tote bag. So if I just bring the tote bag here, you're going to end up with this, oh, it's upside down, super lovely design and it just looks absolutely stunning. So go ahead, pause the video, work those rounds either 16 or 21 more times depending on what you're doing and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've now done that pattern repeat and I have 40 rows. Remember, if you're doing the tote bag, you'll have 50 rows and you can, if you wanted to, actually increase your amount of rows. It's totally up to you. This is adaptable to your personal style. So for me, for this pattern, I've stopped at 40 and we can actually go ahead and fasten off our contrast colour right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now we're going to work with the main colour. So this is exactly the same for the tote and the crossbody bag. We're going to join this last row and the row before together. We're going to start off by going straight into this V space, the space between the 2 V's just here, right below the join. And then we're also going to work into the middle treble of this granny cluster just here. So we're going to go into that space between the V's and then find that central treble, which is a US double crochet in the middle of the granny cluster. Yarn over, pull through, you'll have 2 loops on your hook and yarn over, pull through 2. So that is your double crochet US single crochet. We're then going to find the V-stitch and we're going to go into that V-stitch and also into the space between the granny clusters and work 2 double crochets, US single crochets. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we'll find the space between the V's and then we'll find the central stitch of the granny cluster, or granny set as it might be known, and work your double crochet, which is US single crochet, and then find the V-stitch and the space between the granny clusters and work 2 double crochets in there. You're going to go ahead and pause the video and work your way all the way round until you've done your last 2 stitches in this V-stitch just before where we started, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've now worked my way around and I've just done my last 2 stitches in this V-stitch, and then this is my very first stitch just here. So I'm going to join with a slip stitch into the top of that stitch, like so. So now what we're going to do for the crossbody, we're going to do 3 rounds of the same thing. So we're just going to do a double crochet, US single crochet into each stitch all the way around. For the tote bag, you're actually going to do 6 rounds of that double crochet, US single crochet all the way around. So for the crossbody, it's rounds 42 to 44, and for the tote bag, it's rounds 52 to 57. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a standing double crochet. So you just want to lift up your stitch just a little bit here, and then we're going to go right into that very first stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and mark my stitch, and we're just going to work 1 double crochet, US single crochet into each stitch all the way around, and when you get to the end, you're going to join with a slip stitch into that first stitch. Please remember that this stitch just here is your slip stitch. So if you need to mark the last stitch of the round, so this is the last stitch here, this is the slip stitch, so we're not working into there. So you're going to work your way round, you're going to join with a slip stitch, and then you're going to do exactly the same thing as what we've just done, 3 times for the crossbody and 6 times for the tote. So go ahead, pause the video, work those rounds, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've now worked those rounds, and we're going to do the final round of both of the bags. So this is the same for both of them. We're going to be doing a double crochet, US single crochet in each stitch all the way around again, but we're going to be working into the back loop only. So the first one's going to be a standing back loop only double crochet, US single crochet. So lift up the loop slightly, go into that back loop, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to again mark my very first stitch, and then work into the back loop only of each stitch all the way around. So go ahead, work your way round, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so I have just worked my way all the way around, and we're going to go ahead and take this first stitch mark out. And I actually only have this much left of my first ball of yarn, so I'm just going to pull that all the way through. If you have some more left, then go ahead and fasten off. And I'm going to take my darning needle and thread it up. Probably I'm just going to snip a little bit of that off actually. And I'm going to do an invisible join. So we have our slip stitch just here, so we're going to ignore that, and then this is our first stitch just here, so we're also going to ignore that and then go into the second stitch across. So we're going to pull that through so that that lays on top of our very first stitch. Just going to hold that in place just for a moment while I go through the very last stitch we just made. So from the center into the V, and then pull that through, and then we want that to lay on top of the very first stitch so that it becomes invisible. So again, I'm just going to hold that in place while I fasten off. And then we can go ahead and weave in this tail end. So as always, I like to use my rule of 3. So go one way, back the other, trying to work through different fibres. And then back the other way. Just pull that out, snip off. And there is the main body of the bag finished. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to make the handles. The handle for the crossbody bag is going to be different, obviously, for the tote bag. For the tote bag, we're going to make two. So we're going to make one that attaches to the front, goes long, and then attaches to the front again, and then also one that attaches to the back, goes round and attaches to the back. So you're going to make two handles for the tote, and then just one long one for the crossbody bag. So as we lay this flat, we have the sides of the bag just here. So when you lay it flat, we know that this is the edge. So we're going to attach the handle of the bag just here, the one that's going to go across the body. And this is going to be much longer, but both of them are really easy to do. So for the handle, we're going to take our main colour and we're going to insert our hook. And for the crossbody, we're going to chain 9, and the tote bag, we're going to chain 11. So it's yarn over, pull through. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to work our way back across this chain, working into the back bumps, just as we did for the base of the bag. We're going to go into the second chain from the hook, so not the one that's on the hook, not this first one, into the second one, and we're going to work a double crochet US single crochet in that chain and each chain across. So for the crossbody bag, you're going to have 8 stitches in each row, and for the tote bag, you're going to have 10 stitches in each row. So just work your way across. So 7 stitches and 8 stitches. Now this is going to be a one row repeat, so super simple. We're going to chain 1, turn the work, and then starting in that very first stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, US single crochet in each stitch. So it's just a matter of making sure that you're counting the right amount of stitches as you're working this, but you're going to repeat that throughout the whole of the handle. So remember, we're doing 1 long handle for the crossbody bag and 2 shorter handles for the tote bag. I'm going to leave on the screen how many rows that I recommend you do, but of course you can adapt this and change this to suit your personal preferences. All I will mention is when we come to attach these, we are going to attach it at the base just here. So you're going to want to account for that on one end, that amount on one end, and that amount on the other. That is going to be hidden within the bag, so that will be removed off the length of the handle. So if you are working to a particular size, just bear that in mind, and that's the same for the tote bag as well. But of course, on the tote bag, this section is much deeper, so we need to account for that. So as I say, I'll leave the suggested lengths on the screen. You're making 1 for the crossbody and 2 for the tote bag. Pause the video and then meet me back once you've made your handles. So now you've made your strap, it's time to attach it to your bag. So I'm going to show you the crossbody first of how to attach, and then I'm going to show you the placement of where you would put it for the tote bag. So when you have your crossbody bag, we are going to lay it flat, and you can see here that the edges are here, and then it kind of goes a little bit wider, but we flatten it out. This takes us to the corner points of the work, which means we can fold this in half, and then we're going to be sewing this on here. So you want to follow this round, make sure that it's not twisted, and then fold in half and place in here. So if you wanted to, you could take some clips like this. I have these binding clips that we can pop on, and then you can try the bag on, make sure that it's sitting nicely. But you want to remember that we're going to put the it down here. So this is where it's going to sit. So pop some clips on if you've got any. Make sure that this is not twisted. And then we can go ahead and get some extra yarn so that we can sew these on. So I've threaded up some yarn onto my darning needle, and I'm happy with the placement of where this is. I'm going to start off at this bottom corner just here, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the body of the bag and then through the handle just to pull that through, and then I'm going to make a knot in here just to start this off so that I know that it's nice and secure. I'm going to pop a double knot in there, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to push this tail end in to the work, use my hook just to push that in, because this is going to get sewn in, so we can just encase it in the center. So I've sewn that on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and go from the front to the back and pull it through, and then from the back to the front, should I say, and then the front to the back and pull it through. And we're actually working in this top section, so you shouldn't be able to see these stitches. Move over and go from the back to the front, and then front to back. And we're going to do this all the way around, and this will give us a really nice secure handle. So work my way all the way across to this edge just here, and then once you're at the edge you can start just working up to the top. So making sure you're going through both thicknesses. Take this clip off and just work my way all the way up to that very top stitch. So I'm just up to here. I'm just going to pop one more in there and through. Just adjust my stitch placement slightly, and then I'm going to go across the top of this work, making sure that I am working through both thicknesses and I'm not missing anything. So through and through, like so. So you're going to do this across and then back down, and then meet me back once you're ready. So I've just worked my way round. I actually started sewing in before I remembered that I needed to show this part, so I'm just going to go ahead and fasten that off, and then I'm going to weave that tail end in and out of the stitches, kind of encasing it in that middle section, like so. You can actually leave sewing these tail ends right to the very end if you want to, because it is a good idea to do that just in case you want to adjust anything with the placement of your handles. So You know, if you want to do that, then it's a good practice to have, but this makes it really nice and sturdy in the bag, and then also you can't really see where it's been sewn in at all. So that's the crossbody bag. You're going to go ahead and do exactly the same for the opposite side. So when it comes to the tote, you're going to lay it flat, and then we're going to add the handles like so. So what I've done is I've just put them on, and remembering that the bottom of the handle goes to the base just here. I just need to lift mine up slightly. So this goes to the base, and then we're going to pop them on. So I've just put them on to begin with, and then I'm going to take my tape measure, and we're going to do this so that it starts around 3 inches from the edge, and I've pretty much got that spot on straight away. I must have a good eye. So we want to have them 3 inches, a 3-inch gap as it's laid flat, and that brings it into the front part of the tote bag. Now if you want these a little bit closer, that is totally fine. You can adapt to however you want it to be, so you can personalize this to your own tastes. So go ahead and measure up your one side and attach. Leave your tail ends out, like I mentioned before, just to make sure that you're happy. So once you know everything is in the right place, then sew your tail ends in. But you want to do one side, then flip the bag over, do exactly the same, and then attach your other handle, and you'll do that in the same way that we did for the crossbody. Please be sure that this is not twisted, because that's the worst thing if you do all of the sewing in and then realise that's twisted. So go ahead and do that, and then meet me back, and I'm going to show you how to add the hardware. So I still need to add my second handle on here, but I'm going to show you how to do your optional hardware. So I have this press stud just here, where we'll put one on one side and one on the other, so that we have a nice closing for our bag. And what we want to do here is first of all make sure that we have the pair so that they fit together. And then we want to make sure that this is in the center of our handles. So mine is 8 inches. Just bring that over a tiny little bit, and that is in the center. And we want to take a thread of our main colour, whichever main colour you have used, and you also want a small enough needle that goes through these holes. So you need to be able to pull it through those holes. Now this is a little bit tricky to thread up to this super tiny needle. So what I'm going to do is just take this different type of needle, and I'm going to pop it through. If you don't have one of these, you could perhaps use a little bit of thread instead, and of course you could use thread to sew this on as well if you wanted to. I just like to use the same colour that I've used for the bag. So I'm going to pull that through, and we have that threaded up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this into place, and first of all I'm just going to go into the bag and pull that through, leaving a tail end just here, and then I'm going to come up through this first hole, and then I'm going to go from the inside of the bag to the outside of the bag and push that through. Then I'm going to come up from the outside of the bag to the inside of the bag through that next hole, and then push through from the inside to the outside, just on the outside of that hole. Move around to the next one and do the same from the outside to the inside, and then the inside to the outside. So as I do this, I kind of give it a bit of a pull, and I am also going to pull on this beginning tail end as well, because we want this to be as secure as possible. Now this next one, you can see here that if I go through there, that is actually going through it's going through a gap, and I'm going to try and avoid that. So I'm going to just go a little bit further down so that my needle is going through a stitch and not through a gap in the stitch, and that just keeps it a little bit sturdier. Pull through. You can see, you can't really see it on the other side, and then I'm just going to keep working my way round to secure this onto the bag. Oops. And then I'm just going to come up through where we began, and I'm going to put a double knot in the two yarns here, so the tail end from the beginning and the end. And then all you would have to do is sew in these tail ends just here to disguise them. And then what you want to do is turn the bag round, and then you would do exactly the same for the other one just here, so that we have a nice popper for the bag opening and closing. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have given this a go, please make sure that you tag me on social media, tag me in your progress and also your finished makes, because I absolutely love to see. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Click that bell button to be notified of all of my latest videos. And don't forget that this is part of a larger collection with a can cozy and also a bottle holder. So I'll leave a link to those videos right here.